These are the sights and sounds that captured the hearts of thousands of people when steam was the power source dominating our railways. The 19th century really belonged to the steam engine and the railways. During the 100 years that steam was master, it developed a dedicated following with a fascination that is still very evident today. Although replaced by diesel locomotives, many of these marvelous machines have been brought back to working life by the enthusiasm of hundreds of steam lovers. Now the memories can flood back for those born in the era, while the young ones can discover a new interest. Steam trains also create a wonderful activity for thousands of tourists who are able to use a fascinating form of transport to see the countryside. The attraction of steam emanates from a combination of elements: the power of the steam itself, the sheer hard work involved, and the revolutionary impact steam rail transport made on the development of our country. As we now take a look at a range of locomotives that are operating in Victoria, it will become obvious that Australian Railways hosted an amazing diversity of types and sizes, working in an equally diverse range of tasks. The first to look at is actually the last steam loco to be in active service for the Victorian Railways. The J-class was referred to as a light line type, built mainly for hauling goods trains on the various branch lines around the state. Built in England, all the Js were shipped to Australia as fully assembled deck cargo. It was fairly difficult to expect that this class would be destined for a long service life, as it was launched into direct competition with the now established diesels. They must have proved useful, however, as scrappings did not commence until late in 1967. One of the peculiarities of Australian railways is the adoption of several different rail gauges, even within the mainline system. The distinctive high-pitched boiler on the J is to allow a wheel structure that could be easily converted from broad to standard gauge. Seen here steaming up for her maiden voyage after restoration, J515 is not intended to be scrapped again for many, many years. This successful run at Seymour should see to that. Being the last class to operate here brings to notice an interesting concept of the steam locomotive, and that is how relatively little their appearance changed during their 100-year reign. The basic shape, engineering methods, wheel arrangements and operation remained remarkably similar for that time. All of them utilized the same basic concept: boiling water over a fire to generate steam, which powered the wheels through a reciprocating piston engine. Refinements in later designs did little to alter appearance or change the need for constant hard work to operate them. Improvements included automatic coal feeding, wheel structure, smoke deflectors, superheaters, and as in the case of the last 30 Js, using oil as the fuel. arrangement of the J-class is described as 280, which refers to the two small pony wheels at the front with 8 driving wheels behind that. There are no additional support wheels under the cabin. The driving wheels are relatively small in diameter, a design feature for providing power rather than speed as needed in freight work. Having all 8 of them is for maximum traction. The K-class locomotive was largely based on the J for design specifications and was probably the most reliable class operated by the Victorian Railways. Also a light line goods type, these locomotives served all over the railway network, quickly deriving the respect of all their crews. The first 10 of this class started their life in 1922. The design was obviously sound, as a further 43 were built during the years around the Second World War. There is no doubt that working on a steam loco is synonymous with constant hard work. Even just riding on the footplate is an exercise. The work is dirty and it demands a surprising range of skills. Both the driver and fireman are constantly attending to a list of duties that includes water level, lubrication, regulator setting, reversing gear position, and boiler pressure. The performance of a steam engine is a fine balance of all these controls. And in their heyday, most crews held the skills needed with great pride. A correctly set loco seemed to become an extension of the driver's arm. An aspect that really sets steam apart from diesels is the direct reward they provided in power and performance for this input of hard work. The real heavy work that most would associate with these trains is the never-ending hunger of the firebox. The foot-operated firebox doors are always accepting the rapidly working shovel as the fireman transfers the several tons of coal carried. More than just physical work, skill for correctly laying the coal on the fire was vital to keep operating, and so provide the driver with a suitable head of steam. The way a driver was handling the controls, along with the grade of the line, governed how much work a fireman was in for, as the amount of fire controls the boiler pressure and therefore the power available. However, too much coal and a fireman could actually smother the fire, resulting in a stalled engine. It would not be unusual for a fireman to shovel 4 to 5 tons of coal in each shift. In all her activities, the K-class worked well and was found at the heart of practically every type of operation. During her latter years, the class was used for shunting duties, lasting until as late as 1979 in that particular road. This particular K, number 153, is living again due to the restoration efforts of Steam Rail Victoria, who run regular vintage train excursions like this one to Melton. A method of ensuring that a train had right-of-way on a single track section was to pick up a metal staff for which automatic staff exchanges such as this were fitted. The only train that could pass was the one holding the staff, which would be hand-placed for pickup by the station master. Bringing all this power and weight to a halt is another accomplishment carried out by these crews. The great fear of a locomotive crew was to face losing control and end up with a runaway train. Though fortunately rare, such occurrences had the habit of being somewhat catastrophic. The Westinghouse brake system certainly aided in the process of ensuring a train stopped when it was supposed to. Even at the end of the journey, tending to water levels and lubrication ensure boredom is not part of steam train operation. Note how the specifications are almost identical to those of the J-class. This configuration proved very effective for the utility type of work they were required to do, and formed the basic blueprint for many designs. Another working K is number 163, seen here also preparing for a maiden journey following restoration. This run is from Hastings to Stony Point, alongside Western Port Bay. When one takes the time to study such a machine, the attention to detail and the enormity of the work needed to return these creations back to serviceable condition begins to show.
They have the coal and then they put it in up there to watch. Okay, you want to come and have a look where it gets put in the fire and make it hot so it steams?
The reward for those involved is the pleasure of seeing them breathe again, along with the fun it brings for all concerned. These occasions are a wonderful opportunity for families to get out for a picnic day, with kids and adults alike enjoying the spectacle. Collecting water for these machines is not as well catered for these days, so more modern methods need to be brought into play. Whatever the method, it means that this majestic and elegant engineering product can again grace the rails. Few would argue that there is something special and romantic about the glorious sight K163 creates, thundering along the rails in the sunshine. This time we have a heavy goods type locomotive, the T-class, built specifically for the expanding ore and freight traffic on the Broken Hill narrow gauge system in South Australia. A highly successful workhorse, their versatility led to a total of 78 being built, and they found service all over the state. Six were put to use in Tasmania. Now operating in a new state, T251 heads a wonderful tourist railway at Queenscliff, which is well worth the Sunday drive to spend a day of good old-fashioned fun for all the family. The T is in stark contrast to a large variety of steam locomotives awaiting restoration by the Geelong Steam Preservation Society. This is the state that most of these engines are in when acquired. Given time and devotion, these steamers will one day also be lining up to carry the many passengers that come to savour this character-filled railway.
Yes, mate. Assembly return to Drysdale. Right, no worries.
The actual railway line used here was originally built around the turn of the century as a defence supply to the Port Phillip Heads through fears of a Russian invasion held at the time. Its role now is strictly passenger, a task the T-class often tackled in its original life. On this thoroughly charming railway, she is heading a train with a most unique sensation of going back in time to the turn of the century. Each weekend, delighted visitors can enjoy sliding back in time to be a real part of history as they chuff around the shores of the Bellarine Peninsula on their way to Drysdale. Another tourist railway, also narrow gauge and also built around the turn of the century, is one that is widely accepted as being synonymous with steam trains in Victoria. Every day, people stream onto the Belgrave station to see and ride on Puffing Billy, the affectionate title for the quaint little NA-class tank locomotive. Four of these 2 feet 6-inch gauge lines were constructed around the station. They were designed to meet a cost-effective demand to provide rail transport into some of Victoria's more inaccessible locations, which they did happily until somebody went and invented road transport. This one in the Dandenongs, and so close to Melbourne, had spent its working life filtering into the hearts of the local people who had been taking regular trips through the bush for years. So when the narrow gauge lines began to close, public pressure ensured that this one was able to survive. The extraordinary volunteer work of the Puffing Billy Preservation Society has ensured that this unique little railway will carry thousands of Melbourne people and her visitors for a great many years to come. The whole operation is a tribute to the perseverance and determination of Melbourne people. Working with steam requires some degree of forethought, as it takes a few hours from the time the fire is lit to when a full head of steam is available. But then that is part of the charm, watching a locomotive peacefully smoking away while the water gradually heats to the boil.
One more? That'll be pretty right, I think. I'll get that going for a bit. The oil, just backing off the gas.
This is part of the Alexandra Tramway and Timber Museum, highlighting the vital role that rail transport played in the massive timber industry that Victoria supported in the early part of this century. As well as being the birthplace for the diesel locomotive, this industry supported various types of steam power, such as for the winches and saws used in the bush. On the rails, locos not unlike this were typical, although this particular Fowler may be more familiar on the sugarcane fields of Queensland. Whatever this train's origin, visitors to the spectacular countryside at Alexandra can enjoy a fun steam train ride as well as explore the marvelous history involved with the timber industry. As with so many of the trains operating in this state, the beautiful countryside of this district sets the scene so well for such a day of fun. Locomotives such as this were built for maneuverability on tight winding rails, hence the 060 wheel arrangement. They were also only used for short distances, which explains the sparse accommodation and no tender. They may be small and light, but the working role of such locomotives was vital and invaluable in the pursuit of many industries. Now for a distinct change of pace. to mainline passenger work. The R class is a prime example of the fast passenger locomotive employed on the Victorian railways. In fact, this was the last passenger class to enter service for the VR. More refinements to ease the fireman's load were introduced by this stage, being an automatic steam-powered stoker system. But the shovel is always there, just in case. R761 is another in the steam rail fleet, gracing many spectacular vintage train runs through the Victorian countryside. With sheer speed and size, this machine can't be anything other than impressive. The 70 in service were handicapped in the same way as the J-class, being delivered concurrently with the new B-class diesels. They ended their principal working life by the early 60s, with only a couple, including this one, remaining for special occasions. The R-class ensured that steam ended its reign in Victoria with style, and fortunately that style is able to be enjoyed again through the activities of steam rail. One particular aspect of steam locos is that they were really designed to operate in one direction, if for no other reason than they looked wrong going the other way. So the turntable was a feature of steam. And it may come as a surprise to see how easy it was to spin 190 tons of metal around. It is probably fair to say that not all turntables remained this easy to use. The features which characterize this class as being for passenger work are the driving wheel's size and number. Large diameter is for speed rather than power, as is having only 6 driven or coupled wheels. The R derived considerable power by operating a comparatively high boiler pressure of 210 pounds per square inch. In a scene straight out of the early 1900s, steam rail volunteers in Ballarat are busy preparing their pride and joy for another popular country excursion. The D3 class of locomotive was a passenger type that was a true lady of the rails.
I've cleaned out the ones for the pistons.
Returned to service by the Ballarat Division of Steam Rail, D3639 is the powerhead for their operations throughout the beautiful and historic Western District of Victoria. Such rides can be taken as part of a wide range of activities available in this district. D3639 represents a stylish, classic line of locomotive design, invoking a feeling of pride and elegance. Somehow this lady seems to be an essential and integral part of this countryside, and all who ride her train seem in agreement. The clean, uncluttered lines of this design stem largely from the English influence on locomotives in this country. Improvements to the steam engine included superheating, as fitted at the D3. This is a system where the steam drawn from the top of the boiler in the dome is reheated by passing it back through tubes in the boiler on its way to the cylinders. This results in both extra efficiency and power. After the train pulls into its destination for the night and her passengers have headed off to reminisce over the day, the engine crew prepares to continue the never-ending work by putting their big baby to bed. The tender takes on more water. Oiling practically everything takes place, and 5 or 6 tons of coal is loaded on. Even when modern machinery is helping, manual labor still seems essential. The banjo is always at work. Then the fire is dumped for the night, followed by cleaning out the firebox. A spectacular way to rid the boiler of excess pressure is the blowdown. With just a gasp of pressure, our D3 quietly slips back into its siding for the night. The D3 began its work life at the turn of the century as the DD class, which was to become the most numerous type on the Victorian railways, with some 260 being built up until 1920. Later improvements meant a reclassification into 3 groups, the D3 class resulting from the larger and superheated boilers. So now you have been able to enjoy some of the thrill and variety that our railways offered during a century of domination by steam. Remember that you can enjoy firsthand the enjoyment of a nostalgic steam train ride, as these trains are operating for just that purpose. The organizations we've highlighted will be able to let you appreciate the significance of our early railway engineers, while relaxing in the romance of this bygone era. Each and every one of these groups is looking for your patronage and support to maintain their activities. as well as bringing more and more of these wonderful old machines back to life. There really has been no other invention of man that has commanded such respect while genuinely rewarding the input of honest, hard work. The steam engine has been truly a faithful servant, with a personality hard to separate from human. Many a crew would testify to that. That personality is going to live on for many years to come.